Week 7 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking this week. Number 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers. This week a great matchup at the Cincinnati Bengals. Their offense has been a mess pretty much all season since Joe Burrow went out of the lineup. I know last week it was an okay ball game for Joe Flacco in his first start with the Cincinnati Bengals, and on the short week where he pretty much got traded Tuesday to the Bengals. But right now, Pittsburgh, they're playing at a great level. Last week they shut down the Cleveland Browns, even though I know they're one of the worst offenses in the league, with the young guys in Dylan Gabriel, Krishan Jenkins, Isaiah Bond, Harold Fannin Jr. But I think Pittsburgh, they're going to get pressure on Flacco early and often. We know Flacco's arm strength isn't what it was. I know they still got good weapons, obviously. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown out of the backfield. But I think on Thursday night, they're going to get pressure on Flacco early and often. And this is going to be a good game for Pittsburgh. Number 2, the New England Patriots. This week, a great matchup at the Tennessee Titans. I know last week they had a great matchup as well on paper versus the New Orleans Saints, but they didn't go out there and have a great game with this New England DST. But the juices are going to be flowing a little bit extra, I believe, for Mike Vrabel versus former team that let him loose a couple seasons ago as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And also, Tennessee got rid of their head coach, Callahan, earlier in the week, so we'll see what's going to go on over there and how they're going to run the offense and get things going. But sometimes when a team does get a new interim coach, they actually are motivated and come out with some energy. But I think New England, with the Vrabel factor, obviously, they're going to come out, set the tone early, and it's going to be a long day for Cam Ward in this offense. Number 3, the Denver Broncos. So this week, a good matchup versus the New York Giants. Even though these young guys, they're coming out, they're hungry, and they're putting points on the board. And the Giants pulling the upset last week versus Philadelphia 34-17. So Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, these guys are legit rookies, no doubt about it, from what we've seen from them early on in the season. But this Denver defense is a vicious defense and one of the best, if not the best defense in all pro football. So they get to the quarterback. Obviously, Patrick Surtain, one of the best, if not the best corners in the league. And they're coached by Sean Payton and Vic Joseph on the defensive coordinator side. So they got a lot of guys, obviously. Nick Benito, he's on his way to another Pro Bowl type of season, a premium pass rusher in this league as well. But like I said, this New York Giant team, even in a couple tough matchups the last few weeks, they've gone out there and they're putting points on the board, especially last week versus Philadelphia. I know they were down a couple guys, but that's why I got the Broncos a little bit down on this one. Number 4, Kansas City Chiefs. They're almost at full strength as Kansas City. This week, a great matchup versus Las Vegas coming in. Brock Bowers most likely not going to play once again for this Raider team. Geno Smith's been a turnover machine all season long, throwing a lot of interceptions and inaccurate. And if they could sell out on the run, stop Ashton Jinty early in this game, or even just get off to a lead where they got to make, obviously, Las Vegas one-dimensional, that's where they're really going to get into points, I believe, is Kansas City. And this week, I think they go out there once again in Arrowhead and hold down this Raider offense like last week, where they did a good job versus a high-powered Detroit offense. Number 5, the Green Bay Packers. This Packer DST, last couple weeks, they've been a little leaky, especially week 4 at Dallas, giving up 38 points in that ball game ending in a 40-40 tie. Micah Parsons, looks like his conditioning still isn't up to snuff. Still, his snap count is limited for Micah Parsons. Definitely something going on with that back. But this week, a good matchup on paper at Arizona. I know Arizona went out there in Indianapolis and they put up over 24 points on the board in that ball game with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. But I believe this week, the Packers get back to basics defensively. Last week, a little bit better, even though it was Joe Flacco in an offense. He was just learning on the fly, and they still put points on the board. But this week, a depleted offense with possibly Marvin Harrison out as well for this Arizona Cardinal team. I think Green Bay goes in there, takes care of business. Number 6, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns last week, I thought they would go out there and have a good game, and I'll go to the well one more time with Cleveland as a top 12 option, where this week it's a good matchup versus Miami. They're decimated on the offensive line. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, he's been out for the season, so they still got some capable playmakers, obviously, H.N., Jalen Waddle, and Darren Waller, but the Browns, their defense is good at home, led by Myles Garrett, led by Denzel Ward in the secondary, and this week could be a grinded-out, sloppy game, in my opinion, where both teams have trouble scoring the football offensively. And we know Miami on the road over the last couple seasons, they just really haven't gotten anything going. Number 7, the Chicago Bears. Maybe I'm higher on this Bear DST than consensus this week. But this week, a good matchup. New Orleans coming to town. They're not going to be indoors. Is New Orleans, where their offense is way better at home than it is on the road. And going to Soldier Field here in mid to late October, the temperature starts dropping, the winds start picking up, and this Bear defense, we saw the damage they did on Monday Night Football last week with the upset victory at the Washington Commanders. They get to the quarterback, they create turnovers, and this team's got confidence now as well, winning 3 in a row. And I think Spencer Rattler, who's a quarterback that holds on to the football a whole lot, and the running game hasn't been great this season for this same team. Chicago goes out there, has a nice ball game. Number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the Eagles, they got the doors blown off last week by a young Giant offense, giving up 34 points in that game. But remember, Jalen Carter was out of that game. Mitchell left early with a hamstring injury. So if they even get one of those guys back in this game as Philadelphia, I think they're going to be better off. And it looks like J.J. McCarthy is going to be the starting quarterback. And so far in his young career, missed all last season and a couple games this season. Besides that one big fourth quarter, we really haven't seen much from McCarthy. So I think Philadelphia this week, they slow the game down a little bit. They're going to come up with some schemes to stop McCarthy in this offense, because obviously they got great playmakers. Justin Jefferson, got Jordan Mason, who I think is a solid running back in the backfield, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. So this is a good offense over there, but the quarterback play has been the problem. So if it's McCarthy or if Wentz heals and he's ready to go, either way, I think Philadelphia goes out there, has a top 10 performance, especially getting a lot of sacks in this game. Number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks, they're going to have the 12th man behind them this week here, Monday Night Football. And also as well, this Houston Texan offense, there's not much going on over there besides that one big game at Baltimore a couple weeks ago. They haven't done much in the last season and change offensively. Stroud's taking a step back. Nico Collins still going to get his numbers, still going to put up his points and the yards. But besides that, the backfield, Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, it's been up and down this season. And no one's really emerged as a number 2 option in the passing game behind Collins. You got Dalton Schultz, decent tight end. Christian Kirk really hasn't done much. Jaden Higgins, I thought he'd be at a better pace right now than he is. And also Xavier Hutchinson had a 2-touchdown game a couple weeks ago, but I think that was a little fluky. So this week, Seattle, 12th man, home. And this Houston offense, not that great. I think they go out there and they can help fantasy owners. Number 10, the Los Angeles Rams. So the Rams, they shut down, obviously, a banged up and beat up Baltimore Raven team last week, winning 17-3 in a pretty easy road victory where Cooper Rush was even taken out at quarterback and Tyler Huntley put in the game. So this week, a matchup in London. Usually those games, for the most part, are high scoring. I know last week the Jets and Broncos was a sloppy and a low-scoring game over there in London. But this Ram defense, the last couple weeks, they're going out there, they're making plays, they're getting to the quarterback. And this week versus Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, they got some players. Trevor Lawrence has played better the last few weeks. Got Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. We'll see if they can make him more of an offensive player as the weeks go on. And ETN in the backfield. But I still believe this Ram defense in London goes out there and they could create a few turnovers and get to Trevor Lawrence a few times. Number 11, the Houston Texans. So the Texans, they've been an under-the-radar DST all season long, where they don't get a lot of sacks or turnovers, but they keep the score pretty close and pretty low for the most part. Mid-teens, low 20s, a majority of these Texan ball games have been. And obviously, when you got one of the better corners in the league in Derek Stingley and a good pass rusher in Anderson, that's going to help a lot. And that's what you need nowadays. You need at least one premier pass rusher and a premier corner if you want to go out there and stop these dynamic offenses. So this week at Seattle, I could see this being a little bit of a grinded out defensive matchup early on in the game. And then maybe in the second half, both these offenses start getting things going. But like I said, this Houston Texan DST has been a decent unit all season long, and coming off the bye rested and getting some guys back in the lineup as well could help in the 12th and final DST I'm ranking. And their 1 week streaming option is the Miami Dolphins. So this Cleveland Brown offense, it's been horrible all season long. The only bright spot, in my opinion, has been Quinshawn Junkins and Harold Fannin Jr. for the most part all season, are the 2 rookies for this Cleveland Brown team. But if Miami, they could stop Quinshawn Junkins in this game and force Dylan Gabriel to try to beat him, where he's scared to throw that football deep down the field, where it's a lot of short out routes and quick slants in the middle of the field. So like I said, I know this Dolphin defense isn't any good. This Brown offense isn't good at all. as well. Something's got to give in this game, and I think Miami, at least they could get a couple sacks, maybe a turnover or two. And hey, if they give up 20, 24 points in this game, it's still an okay outing from them. So that's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 7 of the fantasy football season.